time just here is an exhibition made up of many over 20 sculptures. It's basically the last year and a half of work in my studio in Los Angeles. I actually made this body of work specifically for the Málaga space. In the exhibit you'll see a lot of pieces that really provoke different feelings and emotions from the viewer. The idea was to create a site-specific installation that emphasizes each piece in the show. The creative process, it's quite a long process of a lot of sketching, a lot of drawing, writing notes. I work on a lot of concepts for long periods of time until I finally come up with a piece that I really want to make. The actual process from there is realizing the drawings, getting them into the 3D program and creating different molds and maquettes of the piece. And then, after that I have to kind of go through a whole process of making sure the piece can be structural and actually can be made. When I get to that process, the physical side of making the piece starts from sand-cast aluminium, and then from there it's a lot of fabrication, bodywork, priming, painting, until there's a nice smooth object, or getting a casting to look like it's what it's supposed to be. Maybe it's a pencil, or maybe whatever it may be. I try to really kind of make it as realistic as I can get it, and then the final process is painting, and that's all done in a spray booth, and at the end they're kind of finally constructed piece by piece. Each piece is on this kind of rod system throughout the sculpture, and it's constructed, and that's it. I like to play around with a lot of objects that are more things that we use day to day, things that are relatable, maybe somewhat nostalgic, iconic, recognizable things. And I like to use those pieces and involve them in, the narrative in each piece, and have the figure kind of use it as a focal point to create a narrative or a story. So the idea behind the wall reliefs, before I made sculpture and just became a sculptor. I actually did make paintings for a long time. With these paintings specifically, I was just really interested in having the same conversation that I do with a sculpture, but taking it to the wall and sort of just exploring, another kind of path where I can have similar 3D conversations that I can in sculpture onto painting. So the airbrushing and with the faces and, kind of creating that aesthetic is, more trying to create exactly the same conversation that a sculpture does. that's why the airbrushing's in there and creating that kind of like 3D feeling to the piece on the wall. Yeah, color's really important. I really like to play with the color to emphasize the narrative in the piece. So, you know, depending on the focal point of the sculpture, I always like to either, you know, for instance, this piece, you know, the narrative is really kind of like focalized on the tongue, and it's like based around the tongue. So, you know, the airbrushing just against like all these like matte colors just creates this like conversation point in the piece. Also, just in general through the works, I really like to play with, you know, balancing out contrasting colors. So it plays like a big part of the work, and usually try to like match the colors with the actual narrative in the work. I just find it really interesting personally for myself. I've made figurative work for a long time, and I think people are interested in, I think all the things that we go through on, you know, a daily basis is interesting also. I really like to take that into, you know, like a humorous context and make light of, you know, things that we experience. Yeah, and that's kind of just what I've been doing for a long time. I think this piece here is probably one of my favorite works. Yeah, it's titled Hear No, See No, Say No. It's a piece that is, you know, like a humorous depiction, I think, on the idea that, you know, in society we're, you know, told to, you know, close our eyes or cover our ears, or, you know, don't not to speak and to like kind of shut your mouth. And I like to take these ideas and kind of create, you know, like a humorous take on it. Taking the more serious things in life and making like light of it through sculpture.